Here we are. We're back again. This one's going to be fun because we talk a lot about real estate on this podcast as an investment perspective. But now we're going to get a little more sense of the remodel for someone for their own home, but also how that ties to investments overall. And this guy we have on right now, one, thank you for your service and everything that you've done for us and our country. But moving your whole family to Texas, I can't wait to dive into this one. So without further ado, give it up for Chris Tighe. Why don't you give us and start with your background, what you grew up with, and how you even got to where you're at right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm preparing for this presentation at the Build Expo here in Houston on Thursday, and it's all about my story, right? So I've practiced it like a million times over the last few days, but I grew up a military brat. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a lot. Wasn't really exposed to construction, investing, or anything. It was just like moving and baseball. That's about it growing up, and being on military bases. And I grew up and decided that I was going to join after I graduated high school. And when I was actually a Chinese linguist. I did that for about 6 years. On active duty, went into the reserves, became a police officer in Honolulu. Later on, became a police officer in San Diego. In the meantime, I was still a reservist in the military, became an officer, did a few deployments, and then ended up going to Afghanistan in 2009, 2010. And my job was to fly drones for the special forces. And I get out there and they said, hey, Chris, you're the first one here. And your operations center hasn't been built yet, so you have to build it. And I'm like, I don't know anything about construction. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Like, well, we're going to send you the supplies. Here are the plans. You just find some Afghanis to help you build this thing. And I'm like, I'm out there. Like, I don't know the difference between a 110, 220, electrical outlet, and I'm plugging my alarm clock into a 220 and it explodes. And so I'm like, I've got no choice, right? The military, it's like, hey, here's your stuff, figure it out. So, I'm like, okay, cool. I've got no choice. I'm not going to go home. They're not going to say, hey, you're not underqualified. You're going home. Like, I'm there. I'm doing this. So, got the work started. And as the process went on, I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm like, I'm learning stuff as I go. I learned a lot about the scope of work, that no plan is perfect. There's going to be, like on a large project, there's going to be change orders. There's going to be some things that they didn't think about. For example, they wanted me to build this operations center, but they didn't plan out a bathroom. So I'm like, well, what's going to happen if you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of work here, So I had to figure out how to get a bathroom there. So I acquired a bathroom, some running water. And I remember having lunch with this guy on base, and he goes, oh, and I was kind of bragging, like, yeah, we got a bathroom, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, okay, great. Well, what are you going to do for septic? I'm like, well, what's that? And he's like, what's going to happen when you flush the toilet? I'm like, I didn't even think of that. So we went out, the base I was on was an old abandoned Russian base. So we went out and found this like big barrel left behind by the Russians in the 80s. And I got a couple of Afghanis to go inside and like seal it up and paint it, so nothing would leak. Dug a big hole, put it in the ground, and that was our septic system right there. So I left Afghanistan feeling like, that my fingerprints are all over that. I took something that was nothing. Now they're flying operations out of there. They can work. They have electricity. They have running water. They can flush a toilet without a problem. And I really enjoyed it. And fast forward to 2020 when we started our company, just had an opportunity to serve clients in my property management business who wanted some construction done on their properties. I'm like, well, I've oversaw construction before, so yeah, I'll do it. And that's how Elevation Construction started.
That's fantastic. It's just a crazy story. And the septic thing, I would have done the same thing. Yeah. I'd have been so proud and been like, oh shit. Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Exactly.
So you do a couple of things, right? The property management side and the construction side of real estate. Yeah. When you're looking on the property management side, really, let me back up. When we're in real estate, most people that are investing side of things, right? This is who I'm talking to at this point. Sure. They usually shy away from real estate for really two specific reasons. Money, obviously, is always an answer. But two is, how the hell am I going to manage this thing?
Yeah.
Right? How did you break that ideology for yourself to get into it, and be like, you know what, I'm going to go into property management?
Well, after I left the military, I had a few jobs where I was building up my skills on, overseeing projects. And part of that was I was a facilities manager for 9 old buildings in Massachusetts. So I understood, routine maintenance. I understood seasonal work, snow plows, heaters in the summertime, ACs in the summer or wintertime, or, opposite, right?
Yeah.
And just routine stuff that needs to be done on a monthly basis, routine checks on things so that they don't break, because I was overseeing and building for a church, 3 childcare centers and a school. So, there's rules as far as the childcare centers go, as far as temperature and regulations and things about the playground and whatnot. So just understanding, taking care of the buildings, making sure the tenants in those buildings are happy and that we are helping them stay, compliant with the regulations. So, with that experience, an opportunity came up to open up a property management company in Washington, and said, well, I'll be doing what I'm doing now. The difference is I'll have my own business, which is something I've always wanted to have. So I just took that experience, opened up the property management company, and that's how, I just took the systems that I was using in that prior job into this. The difference was my employer was the owner. So now I have 30 to 50 different owners I'm dealing with. And then, however many, 300 tenants, right? So the problems just increased based on, the different personalities I was dealing with at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the personalities, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something I've learned in my young life of 34 years is the fact that personalities and learning those and being able to, as either the leader or the business owner,
right,
kind of mold and adapt to make sure that every communication is key, is
right,
probably the hardest thing to do when it comes to business.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So we go from property management, obviously natural business orientation. Clients are like, hey, this is what I'm looking at doing. And you get in construction. You also move to Texas. So why the move? What was the big point behind the move?
Well, I had moved around so much in my life with the military, and I had taken my family from Temecula, California to Massachusetts, then to Washington. And when my wife and I were up there, we were both feeling like, this is a stepping stone to where we want to be, but we didn't feel like this was our final stop. We knew there was another place we wanted to live. We just didn't know where. And I had a business coach that lived down here in Houston, and there were events that I was going to. So I was coming out here quite often. Initially, I came out here in September of 2 years ago, about 18 months ago. And I got off the plane. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm never coming back to this place. It's too humid, But as time goes on, I'm coming back and forth. I'm meeting more people. My network was growing down here. I really started to like it. And my wife and I were talking about okay, we want to move. So how is that going to happen? And then where are we going to go? So I told her about Houston. We came out. We liked it. We decided that if we wanted to have a mild winter time, we're going to have to deal with a brutal summer, which is what Houston's all about. And there's just an opportunity for construction down here, because construction in Houston is probably the best in the nation, at the moment. So we just decided, my son's going into 8th grade at the time, and we didn't want to move in the middle of high school or anything. So if we were going to move, it would been at that time for him. So, we made a quick decision. We sold a house, bought a house, sold the property management company, and moved down here and opened up an office for elevation construction here in Houston.
There you go. How is the summers, by the way? How are you feeling right now?
I actually don't mind it. I like it. Even in the middle of the summer, I'm still in my garage working out, so it doesn't bother me too much. It just, the thing I don't like is in Washington, I was able to go for 13-mile runs. Here, I try to do 6 miles and I'm just dying.
Yeah.
So the cardio isn't quite there, but yeah, I really enjoy it down here. I think this is the best move we've made in a very long time.
And you spoke about construction, really being a big thing down there in Houston. When we say construction, what are we specifically talking about right now that's hot in your area?
Well, I mean, in Houston, there's a lot of construction for commercial going on, but I'm not into that. That's kind of like the big boys, bigger companies building huge buildings and stuff. We're focused more on residential. So, when we started in Washington, it was primarily working with investors. In fact, I would say 98% of our customers were investors who wanted to take a C-class structure that was not maintained well for years, bring us in and fix it up, and they can, attract the types of tenants that they want to have in their buildings. So that's what our specialty was. But at last summer, when the economy started turning a bit, we noticed that they were not spending as much money, or they were just trying to rent things out as is, which, affects our business. So we had to make a decision of pivoting of like, okay, we got the experience, but let's go towards the homeowners now, because with the rates going up and people not really buying houses as much at that time, people were thinking, well, I'm just going to stay in this house because I got a good rate and maybe I'll just fix it up. So we've been targeting those people. And I was doing some research recently where, 257 people moved to Houston every day. And Texas surpassed California as the top market in real estate. And within that, for construction side, Texas has got the most construction, and 50% of that comes from Dallas and Houston, with Houston beating Dallas out. At the time I was reading, this was a couple months ago. So just the data and the statistics, and I just feel like that is a good sign for us to grow down here. And at the same time, I heard, I think 2 weeks ago, where Seattle's requests for building permits and things like that were actually going down month over month. So coming down here was a good move.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's on the new build side, right? Is what you were
new
seeing
build,
in the reports?
Yeah, and new build. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. So obviously, new build, we can see it everywhere. I mean, there is hot areas. There's always going to be, right? It's a market, is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's more along the lines of that remodel. Why, from your perspective, are you seeing that? And obviously, interest rates are a big deal.
Right.
But why else do you believe like remodels are becoming those things? And i.e., like one of my clients, and you've met her, Jody, is our interior designer, and we're doing a remodel. So I get it from my personal perspective, but what are you seeing from your side of the uptick in remodels?
Well, the most of the people that I talk to they have bought a house, maybe they've been there for 5 years or more, and they just don't feel like moving. They like the area they're in. They just don't want to move, but they want something nicer because it's an older house, Formica countertops, whatever it might be. Like they just want to update it. Because even in the early 2000s, the style was darker cabinets, darker floors, and a tan wall. Now it's lighter cabinets and gray walls, gray floors, or whatever. Like it's changed. So people are wanting a different look in their house. So that's what we're seeing. They don't like the traditional bathroom look. They like to have a pony wall with some glass. We're getting a lot of people who want to remove their tubs and just have a nice big shower. And then we've also had a few people who say, hey, we're getting a little bit older. We want to remove the tub. We never use it. And we want a shower where, a couple of years, if I have to have a wheelchair or a walker, we could just go right in. So we're seeing a lot of things like that where just people are just like, hey, I'm just staying right here. But we're also getting a lot of new build, new construction leads coming in fact, quite a bit. A few investors building duplexes and things like that. But some people who are moving into this area where they're like, hey, I just want to build my dream home next to the lake. What does it look like? So those are longer projects, and it's not like I go to their house, sign a contract, and we start work next week. It takes a lot longer to build those up.
Yeah. So really you got three areas happening, right? You got the investors going probably more of your multifamily apartment complexes, duplexes.
Yeah.
You've got people who lived in Houston or Texas area for a while, and well, guess what? The pricing's not great for them, so they're going to do more of a remodel. And then you got the new blood coming in, and when you're coming from new blood into Texas, your money goes a lot further in Texas than it does in other areas.
Yeah, it
specifically
does.
In the home side, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Right.
Why? And this would be in any part of the United States, when everyone starts to do a whole bunch of remodels, like everyone's usually saying, I don't want to remodel because it's more expensive than buying new.
Yep.
We're at the point where I don't think that's the case anymore in most cases. Why is that? What happens when everyone starts to remodel? What does that do to the supply, demand, and overall cost for them to remodel as compared to, when interest rates were at 3%?
Well, yeah, it kind of depends. Like, for example, we were talking to a guy in Houston a couple weeks ago to do a renovation, and he just wants to like update everything, plumbing, electrical, galvanized plumbing. You don't want that if you're going to move into it, right? So just looking at what he wants to do, we're like, you know what? It's like the amount of money you're going to put into this, you got to just knock it down and build new. But if you do that, then you're going to be the highest priced house in the neighborhood, right? So, but when it comes to like just normal bathroom and kitchen remodels and stuff, I guess maybe I haven't really talked to our prospects much to say, how come you're doing this and not moving? But I know like on the real estate side, like my wife's an agent. So really the thing is rates are just on top of everybody's mind, but transactions are still happening. But I think for the most part, people that we talk to, it's the rates that are keeping them from moving into a new place. And just they already have something at a low rate, and just remodeling makes more sense for them.
Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about most people being in the 3s, and right now we're, I think, in the 7s. Last time I looked at rates, 6s, 7s. I mean, that's double. That's different. It gets down back to the 5s, 4.5s. I think we'll see the uptick in buying homes. But it's never going away. It's a market cycle, everyone. It's normal. It happens. It's just one of those things that in our generation, now it's time for us to have higher interest rates. And I use air quotes because 6-7% is not high interest rates. Historically
in the
speaking,
history,
right? 12s, 15s, 18s. There's generations still alive that remember that. So everyone needs to just breathe a little bit. It'll come back around.
Yeah.
So we've hit upon your business, things that we can do, things we can look at doing. I want to get to more of now focusing on you as a business owner and going through that journey.
Sure.
Talk to me about the mindset you had to have when you first said, I want to be a business owner. Because like a lot of people when we're young kids, like I want to own a business, I want to make money. But when you took that first step, where was your mindset at that point?
I think going back to what I was saying earlier, I've always wanted to have my own business. It's just what kept me from doing it was I never witnessed anyone in my family do it. So I was a little afraid. I didn't know how. I didn't see an example. And I held on to that fear for my entire life because I remember even, before I joined the Navy, before I did the police department, I've always wanted to have my own company. I remember I was telling my wife this not long ago. The day before I went to the police academy in San Diego, the night before, I had to go down to an ATM machine to pull money out because I didn't need to bring cash to buy our PT uniform the next day. And I remember driving, it's like 9:00 at night. I'm driving and I'm just depressed. I'm like, I got to go through a police academy again. I don't want to do this. I just want to have my own business so I don't have to like deal with all this crap anymore. I was just thinking like, I got a truck. I'll just buy a lawnmower. I'll just go mow lawns. Like I can make money doing that. Right. But then the fear got me. It's like, well, I'm about to get married. We're going to have kids, just all you think of all these reasons or excuses not to do it. But, fast forward, gosh, I don't know how many years. I started police academy in 2014. No, 2004. Fast forward to 2019. So that's 15 years of holding on to that, right? I had this urge to like, hey, just quit what you're doing and transition over to your own business. But I'm like, no, it's not a good time. Jonah's doing this, Connor's doing that, my wife's doing this. And, I got projects at work they need me for. And it was bugging me so much that I was actually having panic attacks for an entire summer. And I didn't know what it was because I've never had those before. And it, going back and forth to the VA hospital, and she was telling me, I was talking to the psychiatrist and she's like, what is it you want to do with your life? And so I opened up and she goes, well, I think you know what you need to do. And so my wife and I talked about it. I worked at a church at a time, so they understand this stuff, So I went out, talked to my pastor, my boss, and I'm like, hey, look, this is what's going on. I got to give you 6 months and I need to do my own thing. I don't know what I'm going to do, but whatever it is, it's going to be mine and I have to do it or else I'm just going to be miserable for the rest of my life. So that was it, and I did get, get cold feet. I get nervous. I'm like, okay, maybe I can extend this another year or something. But I felt my wife's hand in my back push me. She goes, no, you got to do this. You got to do this, And so, anyway, I went through with it. I gave a deadline. I stuck to it. We sold our house in Massachusetts, got rid of majority of our furniture, put what we could in 2 cubes, drove our cars to the dealership and said, hey, we got to catch a flight. So buy our cars. We can't bring them with us. So they bought our cars for a very cheap price. Went to the airport, got on a plane and flew to Seattle and started our company and been self-employed ever since. So it was the fear that kept me going. But the thing is, it's like, you have to recognize that, okay, I'm afraid, recognize that feeling is going to be there, but you can't let that make your decision. Fear does not have a choice in what you do. You just have to recognize that it's there. And all the negative thoughts and the negative emotions and feelings, not just internally, but from external. I had friends and family telling me that I was crazy, and I'm being stupid. But you have to ignore all that stuff and be true to what it is you want to do, because I believe we all have desires and dreams in us for a reason. And that's to guide us to the life we're supposed to be living. And you have to stay in touch with that. Even in the times when you're afraid, you have to keep pushing forward. I have a pastor that I like. He says, your future's on the other side of fear. And if you're afraid of something, that's more the reason to go towards it, because there's something there on the other side that is just amazing. And that's exactly what you want to do. So that's what I've been doing.
That's phenomenal. Deep, phenomenal. And bravo and kudos to you to go and seeing someone, a psychiatrist, because
Thanks.
it all that stemmed around is your mental health. I talk about wealth a lot, right? That's my job. Talk about money. But I don't say wealth equals money. Wealth equals happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness is our money ultimately as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And what you alluded to there was your body telling you, I want to be happy and I want to be a business owner. I want to go do this.
Yeah.
And your brain, society, every makeup that you've ever been driven on, outside influences, all were saying, no, stay. It's safer. It's easier. It's safer.
Exactly.
And follow your body, what it tells you. Really, seriously, your body is there to do what it's best for itself, and don't let outside influences dictate that. So kudos and bravo to you for getting through that. But I'll ask though, is the fear gone? Is it easy to be a business owner?
You have to make that choice every single day, because as you get bigger as a company, you're going to have more problems, and it never ends. You have to really want to be a business owner and an entrepreneur to go through this. And it's hard. Like I tell people, I'm like, I've been a police officer where I chased bad guys in dark alleys. I've been, to Afghanistan. I've been on multiple deployments. I've been in the military. Starting my own business and running it, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But the thing is, I wouldn't do anything else right now. This is what I want to do. I've got no plan B. This is me. But it's a daily decision of like, be faithful, like I got a problem here. Crap. What am I going to do? The easiest thing is like, okay, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and look for a job, but no, this problem, as much as I don't want to deal with it, it's going to make me better if I deal with it head on, so it's a daily decision,
right? To steal some verbiage from, I got a buddy who's a SEAL, embrace the suck, right? Ultimately,
exactly.
Embrace the suck. And kind of what you had said is, I don't have a plan B. Now, obviously, you have plan Bs. Like, you could execute those, but you're not thinking about those. Those aren't on your spreadsheet of things to do. Because if they are, then you're half-assing it, right? You're not all in. If you're over here saying, I got my plan B if this thing fails. No, you're right until you die. If it fails, which it probably won't. If it did, you'd land on your feet. You'd figure it out.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And that's what people need to realize is you'll figure it out. But if you don't go full force into this, you're not giving it a shot. You're not really doing what you need to be doing. And then if it fails, now you're going to have that icky feeling in your stomach where you're going, Well, did it fail because it was a bad idea, or did it fail because I half-assed it?
Yeah. Did you give up on it? So the thing is, like, for me, it's constantly watching what's in my mind, because I've got another pastor who says your life moves in the direction of your strongest thought. And if I'm constantly thinking about, oh, I heard so-and-so's hiring. Oh, whatever. Like you hold on to those thoughts and you're just thinking about it while you're like doing your job or your business. That thought is going to distract you, and it's going to move you in a different direction. And then it's going to keep you from actually pushing forward. So it's a constant, like every morning watching my mind, like, okay, what am I thinking about today? Is this going to help me produce and be productive with my company? And if not, I got to reset.
And do you have any tools or tips? I know this is kind of a little off script of things, but do you have any tips that you use that maybe others could, kind of steal from you?
Well, what I do is I've got a vision board that's hanging out over there, and there's two things that really stick to my mind. The top thing I say at first, it says, I'm going to change the world. And then the next thing is, I'm going to build a $10 million business. And there's a picture of me next to like this book that says how I built a $10 million business. Like it's the future where I'm telling people, hey, this is how I did it. And so I look at that, and there's times I'll look at it and I get chills, because I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. Things like that. I do read every single morning. I read about 25 to 30 books a year, and I make sure I read books that are in line with how I want to think. And so those are big things. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are like self-help, positive type stuff. Ed Milet, I listen to him quite often. Trevor Mock with the Carrot Cast, a lot of things like that, where it's like, hey, watch your mind. And if you are fearful, or if you got these negative thoughts, it's normal, but this is how you deal with it. So feeding my mind with all those things really helps me out.
And I'm a test and throw some more on there is your health and fitness ultimately.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I work out every single morning. I got a gym in my garage, and in my home gym, I've got, Jocko, right? Mm-hmm. The discipline equals freedom. I got that flag hanging up, and then I got another flag that says average is the enemy. So I'm surrounded by those things where I'm like, okay, I can like skip this set, but then I see, average is the enemy. Discipline equals freedom. All right, I'm not skipping it. I'm going forward with it. So I surround myself with a lot of things like that, just as reminders of who I want to be.
And by a great book, by the way, Jocko, which I've alluded to his podcast a lot, and his books. I have all of them, even the ones for the children. You guys might want to go check out Discipline Equals Freedom.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic as well. What are things do you want to say to everyone else that are out there, whether it's your business? Obviously, we're going to tag your business and push as many people to you as possible. Yeah. I've got some buddies down in Houston as well, so I make sure to align you as well. But
awesome.
What are some things you want to lead everyone with?
The biggest thing that I'm working with right now, the thing that's on top of my mind is protecting the consumer. And what really bothers me, my wife's a real estate agent, so she just made this video with her brokerage on why she got into becoming a real estate agent. And it's because we got screwed over by an agent, back in 2003. And was it 2000? No, it was 2008, 7-8. It got us into a bad mortgage. It was adjustable rate. We had no idea. We were just like trusting this guy, and we ended up getting into a short sale, and it really screwed us over for a couple years. My wife's like, you know what? That pissed me off. I said, well, what are you going to do about it? She says, I'm going to become an agent so this doesn't happen to anybody that she deals with. And so, I take that same mentality into what I do. There's a lot of great contractors out there, but there's a lot of guys out there that just don't do a very good job. And I want to protect, and what I've been pushing out a message at my BNI groups and on social media is like, hey, when you start interviewing these contractors, these are the things you want to look for. What do you want to ask them? Do they have insurance? What does that look like? Can you get a certificate of insurance? Are they bonded depending what state you're in? Are they licensed depending what state you're in? References? Do they have a website with examples of their work on it? Things like that. Exchanging money. I've got someone in my neighborhood who paid 100% of the job up front, and the contractor took off. And I don't blame that guy. The guy was just trusting this contractor because I'm sure he sold it really well. But I want to get the message out. Hey, this is how it works. You get an estimate. Make sure it's a line item. It's not like this long paragraph like, oh, I'm going to fix your kitchen and then
With a
here's the
number.
total price. There's no
Right.
transparency there,
Right.
right? Line items, get that in there. Make sure it looks professional. Before you exchange money, make sure there's a contract. Make sure you know what your payment schedule is on that, like progress payments. What does that look like? And, ask them about change orders. How do you handle change orders? Like, I've had subcontractors. Oh, hey, I forgot to charge you for the paint. I'm like, well, you just learned a lesson, man, because you signed a contract saying this is how much it's going to cost. So you're paying for the paint this time, right? Things like that. I've been really pushing that out. A lot of stuff on our social media, if people want to follow me, just educating people on how to look for a really good contractor. Now, if you find a really good contractor, they're not going to be the cheapest. They're going to be, you may not want to go the high end, but, in the middle, realm there, the cheapest guy typically is the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to say, I'll charge you $10,000. And then change order after change order after change order. And the total scope of work isn't complete. And they're like, well, we're not on the same page. And it's just a heartache. So anyway, as you can see, I'm a little bit...
a little passion there.
A little passionate
little
there.
bit.
It kind of pisses me off a bit.
Yeah.
With my former law enforcement, I like to protect the people.
And that's phenomenal to hear. There's a lot of great business owners out there that want to do that. Not a lot of them say it out there, but transparency is key to anything that we do.
Yep.
Our industry, your industry, name the industry.
Right.
Transparency and communication. So with that, make sure to follow them, hit them up, ask questions, be involved. If you can't find them, which is not that hard to do, hit me up. I'll connect you. We just want to make sure that you are being educated in the best way possible. If you're a business owner or want to become one, just take that leap, right? Face your fears, walk through it, grind through it, and get through that chaos. And as well as if you're in the Houston, Dallas area, I guess what's your overall scope?
More Houston right now. We'll expand up into Dallas, but our focus is Houston right now.
If you're in Houston, looking for a remodel, new build, you know who to hit up.
That's right.
Elevation Construction. All right. We appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.